I'm 22, and this incident happened a year and a half ago. I had just found my first apartment and was in the process of moving in. The door that led into the apartment locked itself automatically when closed. I was going to the entrance of the apartment complex to get my mail while talking on the phone with my boyfriend. When I returned to my apartment, I sat on the bed and started opening mail and accidentally dropped my phone on the floor. It landed under the bed, so I had to lie on the floor and stretch to reach it. While down there, I saw that there was someone under my bed. My eyes widened and I fought the urge to scream. The person under my bed was lying still with his back towards me and his head to his chest, so I couldn't see his face and he couldn't see me. Trying to be rational while so many thoughts rushed through my head, I picked up the phone and said, "Sorry, I dropped my phone. I'm just gonna go take a quick shower. I'll call you back." The bathroom was right by my bed and the apartment was on the first floor, so I hastily walked in, quietly locked the door, turned on the shower, and jumped out the window. Once I was outside, I immediately called the police. They told me to wait nearby, but go across the street and watch to see if anyone would come out of the door to my apartment. This was during the summer, and it was still light out, so I could see my place easily from across the street. I hid behind a car while watching my open bathroom window, as well as the entry door. I called my boyfriend back and told him what happened, and he arrived just before the police. I gave them my keys, and they went inside. Moments later, 2 cops came out, holding a thin and tired-looking man. His eyes looked crazy, but he didn't try to get away. I was crying and shivering from the shock. The policeman that had stood beside me and comforted me while my apartment was searched told me that they had found the man standing outside my bathroom door with one of my kitchen knives, waiting for me to come out. This man had somehow crept through my entry door while I was getting my mail and hid under the bed before I returned. The man that was trying to hurt me turned out to be homeless and was placed in a mental hospital as a result of this incident. My boyfriend moved in with me the very next day. This whole thing began about 2 months ago. My sister and I were talking at a family party that my aunt was having, and she told me that she was suspicious that someone had been coming into her house in the middle of the night. My sister has always been easily scared and paranoid, so I was skeptical. I asked her how she knew someone had been coming in, and whether or not she had actually seen anyone. She said that even though she never saw anyone, she knew for a fact that someone was in her house. She had a skybox downstairs that streams to her bedroom TV. The first time she thought someone was in her house, she thought she heard the TV downstairs being used, so she turned on her bedroom TV to check and saw that someone was flicking through the channels. I still didn't buy what she was saying since she's so easily spooked, but she seemed genuinely afraid. She claimed it had been going on occasionally for about 3 months. To put her mind at ease, I told her I'd stay at her place for a few nights to see if anyone was breaking in. I took my younger brother along, just to be safe. We ended up staying with her for 4 nights. During that time, nothing unusual happened. Me and my brother were convinced she was just going crazy. After the 4 nights, we decided we had stayed long enough and told her we had to go home. She got really upset about this, but I tried to comfort her and told her to call the police the next time something happened. She had called the police once before about the guy, but when they showed up, there wasn't anyone in the house. I told her she could call me anytime she wanted. Then I left for work. 2 days later, she called me at 11:30 at night and claimed someone was downstairs in her house right at that moment. I asked her how she knew. She said she could hear someone walking around the house. She was whispering and crying. I knew she wasn't making this up. I could tell she was sincere from her voice. I called my brother and asked him to meet me there, and then called my sister back and stayed on the phone with her during the entire 10-minute drive to her house. When I arrived, my brother was parked outside. I was still on the phone with my sister, and I let her know we'd be going to the back of the house. The first floor of the house was lit solely by the TV in the living room. As we approached the patio door, we saw a man sitting on the couch facing us. We were frozen in place. My sister noticed we had went quiet and asked if we could see anyone. I told her to stay quiet and let us handle the situation, then hung up and called the police. The guy hadn't moved from the couch at all. While we were waiting for the police to arrive, the TV suddenly turned off, completely freaking me and my brother out. We couldn't see anything downstairs until the hallway light turned on, meaning someone was on the stairs. We immediately bolted into the house, opening the patio door and running up the stairs. We caught the guy with his ear to my sister's bedroom door. We kicked the shit out of him and got my sister out of the house when we saw that he had a knife in his coat pocket. The cops finally arrived 10 minutes later, which is outrageous. He could have easily killed her in that time if he wanted to. It turns out this guy was one of our mom's old boyfriends who had lived with us for a while in the 90s. He had always been fond of my sister, but he hadn't contacted any of us for nearly a decade, so we never would have suspected it was him. My sister has since moved back in with my mom and is undergoing therapy to get over this. Our stepdad, as he liked to call himself, was given 3 years in prison, and we've cut all ties with him. This happened last week, on April 1st. I'm a 5'6" female, and I weigh about 105 pounds. Not very strong. I live in a cheap motel, but hey, I work 5 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. and it's cheap. I really only need the place to sleep, and I'm barely in my apartment anyway, since the only day I have off is Sunday. About a month after I moved in, which was late February of this year, I got a knock at the door before I was even finished unpacking my things. It was some middle-aged man who introduced himself as my neighbor. I gave him the fake smile and friendly voice, pretending I was happy to see him. He had a plate of muffins with him, which he handed to me while bragging about how he had worked so hard making them himself. I took the plate of muffins, thanked him, and told him I needed to finish unpacking, but I'd see him around. He gave me a creepy smile and then left. These muffins smelled horrible. They were stinking up the whole apartment, which started to make me paranoid as I considered the possibility that he had poisoned them. I shot down my suspicions and gave him the benefit of the doubt, reassuring myself that they probably smelled bad because he was an awful baker. I threw them in the trash and continued unpacking. About a week later, he angrily knocked at my door around 8 p.m., literally 3 minutes after I got home from work. He looked pissed when I opened the door, and before I could even say anything, he started shouting at me about how he knew I didn't eat the muffins because he found them in the garbage. He kept trying to get me to apologize, calling me a stupid bitch for not accepting his kindness before storming off. I was completely shocked. I decided to just stay away from him as much as possible, since he obviously had some emotional issues. I didn't hear from him again until April 1st. It was about 4:30 a.m., and I was getting ready to leave for work. When I opened my door, there was a dead rat on my welcome mat with its blood leaking everywhere. It had been gutted. I heard someone say "April Fools" nearby and then close their door. He must have figured out my schedule so he could be right there as I left for work. No, I know a rational person would probably call the police and try to get a restraining order, or at least just try to find another apartment. But I thought it over and decided not to bother the police since he hadn't tried to physically harm me yet, and without a police report, I couldn't get a restraining order. On top of all this, I had already been looking at apartments in my city, and this was all I could afford. I got back from work that night, and everything was fine. The rat was gone, and it looked like he had scrubbed my welcome mat clean. I figured he had come to his senses, plus I had just gotten a promotion at work and was feeling really good. I decided to take a bath to relax. The bathroom is actually pretty big, bigger than the bedroom and about the same size as the living room, so it was a great apartment to take baths in. I filled the tub, climbed in, and closed my eyes. That was when the lights went out in the bathroom. I didn't notice at first since my eyes were closed, but after a few seconds I heard someone say "April Fools" and then drop something into the tub. I flipped the hell out and jumped out of the tub, managing to find my bathrobe more quickly than I thought I could. I rushed out of the apartment without looking behind me and phoned the police. They arrived in 2 minutes. When I asked them what was in the bathtub, they said they couldn't tell me and that I wouldn't want to know anyway. They said it was just good I had jumped out as quickly as I did, or else I wouldn't be alive. They never found the guy. His apartment was empty, and the window that led to my fire escape was wide open. I'm still petrified, but I've been staying at my aunt's house and haven't heard anything from him since. I'm still not sure whether I'll ever go back to that apartment.